You don't fall in love by accident. You fall into familiar pain. You don't choose what feels healthy at first, you choose what feels known. And sometimes, what feels known is distance, silence, emotionally unavailable people, relationships where you are always reaching and never fully held. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I keep loving people who cannot love me back? This is not weakness, it is a pattern, and patterns are learned. But what is learned can be unlearned. Tonight, we are not talking about finding better partners. We are talking about becoming a safer home for yourself. Because when you rewrite your inner story, your love story changes with it. You were not born chasing emotionally distant people. You were trained by moments when love felt conditional, when closeness came with anxiety, when being easy felt safer than being honest, when your needs were too heavy for the room. So your nervous system learned something powerful and dangerous. Love equals effort. Love equals waiting. Love equals proving your worth. And now when someone is cold, unpredictable, half present, your body recognizes it as home. Not because it is good, but because it is familiar. Unavailability feels like chemistry when your childhood taught you to survive, not to receive. So you over-explain, you over-give, you overstay. You call it loyalty, but often it is abandonment of the self. Healing does not start by blaming your parents or shaming your past choices. Healing starts when you gently say, this pattern protected me once, but it is hurting me now. Real love does not feel like anxiety. Real love does not make you smaller. Real love does not require you to disappear to be chosen. Healthy love feels unfamiliar at first. It feels slow. It feels steady, it feels quiet. And to a nervous system trained in chaos, peace can feel boring. Consistency can feel suspicious. Safety can feel undeserved. So the work is not only choosing different people. The deeper work is becoming someone who can tolerate safe love. Someone who no longer confuses intensity with intimacy. Someone who no longer mistakes emotional distance for depth. Someone who no longer believes they must earn rest. You rewrite your love story when you stop negotiating your worth. You stop auditioning for affection. You stop shrinking to keep connection. You rewrite it when you choose discomfort over familiar pain. When you let healthy love feel awkward. When you let yourself receive without guilt. When you walk away from what feels exciting but unsafe. This is not a personality flaw. It is a wound learning how to breathe again. And every time you choose yourself, even quietly, you break a generational cycle. You become the person your younger self needed. You become the safe place. And from that place, love no longer feels like survival. It feels like home. You are not drawn to emotionally unavailable people because you enjoy suffering. You are drawn to them because your body remembers something your mind does not always see. Long before you learned the language of love, your nervous system learned the language of survival. It learned how to stay quiet when something hurt, how to become easy to love, how to not ask for too much, how to feel responsible for other people's moods. So when someone is distant today, when they are inconsistent, when they give you just enough warmth to keep you hoping, something deep inside you relaxes. Not because it feels good, but because it feels known. Familiar pain is strangely comforting. It has rules, it has a shape, it has a story you already know how to survive. Safety, on the other hand, has no script when you did not grow up with it. Consistency feels suspicious. Gentleness feels undeserved. Someone who stays feels foreign. So your body does what it was trained to do. It moves toward what it understands. You call it attraction, but it is recognition. You call it chemistry, but it is memory. You call it love, but often it is an old wound asking to be met in a different ending. This is why logic alone cannot change your patterns. You cannot argue your way out of a survival strategy. You must listen to it. You must thank it for keeping you alive when love was uncertain, and then, slowly, teach it something new. That connection does not have to hurt to be real. That closeness does not require self-erasure. That being chosen does not require disappearing. Healing is not rejecting your past. It is telling your nervous system, we are safe now. You don't have to earn love through suffering anymore. And when that message finally reaches the body, the people who once felt irresistible will begin to feel exhausting, and the ones who once felt boring will begin to feel like peace. Emotional unavailability feels like chemistry when safety was absent in childhood. Intensity replaces intimacy when calm was never modeled. When safety was missing in childhood, your body learned to stay alert instead of at ease. Love did not arrive as warmth. It arrived as tension, as reading the room, as waiting for the tone to change, as learning when to speak and when to disappear. So your nervous system grew up believing that connection is something you monitor, not something you rest inside. Later, when you meet someone emotionally unavailable, something familiar awakens, your heart starts racing, your thoughts become busy, your hope rises and falls with their attention. You call it chemistry. But often it is your nervous system recognizing an old environment. Unpredictability feels meaningful when your early life taught you that love comes and goes. Distance feels magnetic when closeness was unreliable. Your body confuses activation with affection because calm was never safe enough to trust. So intensity becomes proof. Strong emotions replace steady presence. Longing replaces being held. Anxiety replaces knowing. You don't miss the person. You miss the feeling of trying to earn love. And because true intimacy requires safety, it feels unfamiliar. Quiet connection feels empty. Consistency feels suspicious. Kindness feels temporary. Not because it is, but because your body never learned to live there. So it searches for storms, for highs and lows, for emotional weather that feels like home. Healing is not convincing yourself to choose better. It is teaching your nervous system that love can be steady, that closeness can be calm, that connection does not have to burn to be real. And slowly, what once felt boring begins to feel safe, and what once felt like chemistry begins to feel like chaos. That is the moment your story begins to change. Over-giving is often self-abandonment disguised as love. You disappear to keep connection alive. Over-giving rarely begins as generosity. It begins as a strategy, a quiet agreement you made with life long before you had words for it. If I become easy to love, I won't be left. So you learn to offer more than was asked, to notice what others need before they speak it, to anticipate disappointment and fix it in advance, to soften your voice, your anger, your hunger, your boundaries. You learn to be useful because usefulness felt safer than honesty. And slowly, love became something you performed, not something you received. You gave your time when you were tired. You gave your understanding when you were hurt. You gave forgiveness before pain had even been acknowledged. You gave second chances to people who never gave first care. You told yourself you were kind. But kindness without self-protection becomes erasure. Each time you swallowed a need, you stepped further away from yourself. Each time you said, "It's okay," when it wasn't, you taught your body that your truth was dangerous. Each time you stayed quiet to keep peace, you trained your heart to live in exile. You call it loyalty, but your nervous system knows it as fear. Fear that if you ask for too much, you will be alone. Fear that your real self is heavy. Fear that love must be earned through exhaustion. So you disappear carefully, not all at once. You disappear in small ways. You stop saying what you want to eat. You stop saying when something hurts. You stop saying no. You stop expecting repair. You stop believing you deserve effort. And the tragedy is this: the more you abandon yourself, the more others feel comfortable doing the same. Because people can only meet you as deeply as you are willing to stand in your own truth. Real love does not ask you to shrink. It does not require you to be quieter than your pain. It does not survive on your silence. Love that costs you your voice is not love. It is a memory of not being safe. Healing begins the moment you let the connection break instead of breaking yourself. The moment you choose discomfort over disappearance. The moment you allow someone to see your needs and risk losing them rather than losing you. That is not selfish. That is the end of a long, quiet betrayal and the beginning of being real. And from that place, connection no longer depends on how much of yourself you give away. It depends on how much of yourself you are finally willing to keep. Healthy love feels strange before it feels safe. Peace feels boring to a body trained in chaos. Healthy love, often remembered as boring, is not boring at all. It is quiet, and quiet can feel threatening to a nervous system that grew up on noise. When you were trained in chaos, whether that chaos was obvious, like conflict and unpredictability, or subtle, like emotional distance and inconsistency, your body adapted. It had to. A child cannot say, This environment is harmful, I'll leave. A child has only one option, adjust. So your system learned to stay alert. It learned that love is something you track, not something you lean into. It learned that closeness is unpredictable. It learned that good moments are temporary, so you'd better hold them tightly before they disappear. That's not drama. That's biology. Your nervous system becomes calibrated to intensity, to highs and lows, to are we okay, to what did I do wrong, to that restless feeling of waiting for the next shift in mood. So when someone comes into your life and they are steady, they answer your messages without games, they show up when they say they will, they don't punish you with silence, they don't make you guess. Your body doesn't automatically label that as safe. Your body labels it as unfamiliar. And what is unfamiliar can feel dangerous. This is the part people don't understand. They think healing means you immediately feel calm with a good person. But sometimes calm feels like emptiness at first. Sometimes consistency feels like a trap. Sometimes kindness feels like manipulation waiting to happen. Sometimes peace feels like, what's the catch? Because your system is scanning for the threat it expects. If you grew up with love that was conditional, your body learned that affection can be withdrawn. If you grew up with caregivers who were emotionally unavailable, your body learned that closeness is followed by disconnection. If you grew up needing to be good, to be loved, your body learned that love must be earned. So in adulthood, your body may crave what it knows how to survive. You may confuse anxiety with attraction, not because you're broken, but because anxiety is familiar. The person who makes you wait feels exciting. The person who gives mixed signals feels mysterious. The person who is emotionally unpredictable makes your system feel alive. But aliveness is not the same as love. Aliveness can be the stress response. And here's the hard truth. If your body was trained in chaos, peace will feel like withdrawal, like something is missing. Because what's missing is the adrenaline you used to call chemistry. You are not missing the person. You are missing the intensity your body became dependent on, and that dependency is not romance. It's an old adaptation. This is why some people sabotage healthy relationships, not consciously, but subtly. They create conflict to feel something familiar. They test the partner to see if they will leave. They pick fights because calm feels unsafe. They withdraw because closeness feels too exposing. They interpret steadiness as lack of passion, but passion is not supposed to be anxiety. Healthy love is not a roller coaster. It is a warm room. And if you've lived your whole life in the cold, warmth can feel overwhelming at first. It can even feel wrong. Healing is learning to stay in calm long enough for your body to learn. This is not danger, this is stability. To stay in safety long enough for your system to stop searching for the hidden threat. And at the beginning that can feel unbearably uncomfortable because you are grieving something. You are grieving the familiar identity of the one who chases, the one who tries harder, the one who proves, the one who earns love through effort. Healthy love asks you to stop performing. And if performance has been your survival, stopping can feel like losing control. But what you're really losing is the addiction to unpredictability. And the more you practice safe love, safe communication, safe boundaries, safe repair after conflict, safe closeness without punishment, the more your body begins to change its definition of attraction. You start to feel repelled by games. You start to feel tired around inconsistency. You stop calling emotional hunger passion. You stop confusing longing with connection. And slowly, peace stops feeling boring. It starts feeling rich. Because peace contains something chaos never gave you. Space to breathe, space to be yourself, space to speak without fear, space to rest without guilt, space to love without losing your dignity. That is the moment you realize the old kind of chemistry wasn't love. It was survival wearing perfume. And the new kind of love, steady, calm, grounded, is not less powerful. It is just not trying to reopen your wounds to prove it is real. It is real because it is safe, and safe at first feels strange. But strange is not wrong. Strange is simply new, and new is how healing begins. You heal by choosing self-respect over familiar suffering, not once, but repeatedly. Healing does not arrive as a single brave decision. It arrives as a series of quiet betrayals of your old survival story. For a long time, suffering felt loyal. It felt honest. It felt like proof that you were trying hard enough. You learn to measure love by how much it hurt, how much you endured, how long you stayed. So when you imagine choosing yourself, it can feel unnatural, even selfish, because your nervous system learned that connection requires sacrifice, that if you rest, you will be forgotten. If you ask, you will be too much. If you leave, you will be unlovable. So familiar suffering becomes a kind of shelter. It hurts, but it belongs to you. It has a story you recognize. It allows you to feel useful, needed, relevant. Self-respect, on the other hand, is quiet. It does not beg. It does not chase. It does not explain itself to people committed to misunderstanding. And because it is quiet, it can feel empty at first. When you stop chasing what harms you, there is a strange silence. No crisis to manage, no emotional fires to put out, no anxiety to translate into meaning. Just you. And that can be terrifying if you were taught that your value lives in how much you give. Choosing self-respect does not mean you stop loving. It means you stop bleeding for connection. It means you notice the tightness in your chest when you are being diminished, and you listen. It means you feel the pull to explain yourself to someone who has already decided not to hear you, and you stay quiet. It means you recognize when you are shrinking, and you stand still instead. These choices are small. No one applauds them. There is no dramatic music when you don't send the message, when you leave the room, when you say, "That doesn't work for me," when you stop probing. But inside, something ancient shifts. You are telling your nervous system, "We will not survive by disappearing anymore." And it resists, because suffering is familiar. Self-respect feels lonely before it feels strong. You will grieve the version of you who tried harder than necessary. You will miss the hope that maybe, this time if you just love better, someone will finally stay. You will feel guilt. You will feel doubt. You will feel the old pull to return to what is painful but predictable. That is why healing is not one decision. It is a practice. You choose self-respect when you hang up instead of pleading. You choose it when you walk away from half love. You choose it when you stop arguing with someone's lack of care. You choose it when you allow yourself to be misunderstood instead of self-betrayed. You choose it when you feel the loneliness of integrity and stay there. And slowly, the body learns. It learns that dignity is safer than hope built on neglect. It learns that abandonment by others is survivable, but abandonment of the self is not. One day you notice something different. The chaos no longer calls your name. The inconsistency feels tiring, not exciting. The pain you used to romanticize feels unnecessary, and in its place is something quieter, a groundedness, a boundary that no longer shakes, a love for yourself that does not need to announce itself. That is not arrogance, that is healing, not a moment, but 1,000 small refusals to suffer for belonging, and 1,000 small returns to yourself. That is how cycles end, not with fireworks, but with someone finally choosing to stay inside their own life. And maybe this is the truest ending to your old story. You stop asking why love hurts, and start asking why you were taught to accept pain as proof of connection. You stop chasing people who feel like home, and become the home you were always searching for. You stop waiting to be chosen, and choose yourself in the smallest, bravest ways. Not loudly, not perfectly, but honestly, and one day, without realizing when it happened, your heart will no longer run toward what wounds it. It will walk slowly, steadily toward what is kind. That is how the cycle breaks, not by finding someone new to save you, but by finally refusing to abandon yourself. And in that quiet loyalty to your own life, love will no longer feel like survival. It will feel like peace.